Hello everyone, Gilligan Kruger 0829 here, and welcome to the first day of... Yep, you guessed it, another superhero series review. For this series review, we will be preparing for the upcoming superhero film, and the movie I am hyped up more than any other for 2012, The Dark Knight Rises. That's right, epic filmmaker Christopher Nolan is finally bringing an end to his take on the Dark Knight legend that started back in 2005. And as such, we'll look at all three of Christopher Nolan's films, starting with Batman Begins from 2005. Yes, almost 8 years after one of the earlier Batman films not only killed the franchise, but also buried it in its grave, in comes the director of Memento and Insomnia to not only revive the Batman franchise, but give The Dark Knight the treatment he's always deserved. Does this film still hold up after about 7 years, though? Well, let's just take a look and see for ourselves. So this movie starts with Bruce Wayne, played now by Christian Bale, who is stuck in a Tibetan prison cell. He doesn't really get along, so to speak, with the other inmates, but his saving grace comes in the form of Henry Ducard, played by Liam Neeson. You see, Ducard not only gets Wayne out of prison, but he also takes him to a mountainous retreat where he will teach Bruce to fight crime, disappear, and ultimately get over his inner demons. Unfortunately, though, towards the end of his training, Bruce learns that Ducard's association, called the League of Shadows, plans to travel to Gotham and ultimately destroy it. So Bruce thwarts the operation and travels back to Gotham himself. Along the way, he's reunited with several old friends, such as his butler Alfred, played by Michael Caine, Police Sergeant Jim Gordon, played by Gary Oldman, and his childhood friend and now DA, Rachel Dawes, played by Katie Holmes. While he's in Gotham, however, Bruce decides he wants to become a symbol for all crime to fear, and with the help of Wayne Enterprise associates Lucius Fox, played by Morgan Freeman, he becomes Batman, a dark symbol of crime and justice, to extract the city and ultimately save it. And the rest of the movie, as you can probably guess, is Batman coming to terms with his identity and becoming the character we all know him for today. So, when this movie came out in 2005, it was met with very good critical reception, actually. Both critics and fans really liked the film. And, I'm just gonna say it, I'm one of them. In fact, I will say I loved this film. Almost everything they did with it was so different, but so satisfying. Let me start with the tone of the film, because it is completely different than the tone of any Batman movie we had before this. Instead of doing this whole silly routine or have characters going pow, bang, smack, this one was very more realistic and very dark. And because of this, we got a lot more... The whole film itself was grounded a lot more in reality, kind of like the Alien movies. With this film, you could believe that a character like Bruce Wayne or Batman would actually exist. And it's really done well. I liked it. And it's helped by the fact that this is essentially a very tragic origin story, because when we first see Bruce Wayne, we see him in a flashback as a child, and we learn of his fear of bats, how he felt guilty about essentially being the cause of his parents' death, and how he eventually wants to avenge them and extract justice with Gotham itself. And the way they channel it is really good. I think Bale and the child actor that portrayed him in the younger stage both did a really good job of evoking that, so props to them. And not only that, but the whole rest of the story is also grounded in reality too, because instead of having a movie where we have all these villains going around trying to take over Gotham, in this one, they pretty much already have. We see that Gotham is covered in corruption and greed. I think there's one point where there's a mob boss that says Gotham is a terrible place. People get mugged coming home every day, which kind of reminded me of how Roy Scheider was describing New York in the first Jaws movie, whether that was an intended comparison, I don't know, but it's just something I saw. And again, it felt really appropriate for the setting. And even Gotham City in general, which is Chicago in this movie, it's just filmed to a way that really makes it look dark and huge, more so than we've gotten before. Like, I've been to Chicago before, but the way they've gotten it in this movie is... If you're one of the few people who haven't seen it, I definitely want to say go check it out, if not for just the scenery. But, as we all know, that's not the only good thing about this movie. There's also a really good cast. The casting in this movie, I think, was spot on. Let's start, of course, with Bale as Bruce Wayne / Batman. On the side of Batman, I'm not going to say he's my favorite. In fact, that role is going to go to Kevin Conroy forever and all time. But I think Bale is probably my favorite Bruce Wayne because he deals with both the dark and sinister things that have haunted him in the past, but he really plays off the character that's just being kind of a wisecracking, fun-loving ladies' man that you couldn't possibly believe was Batman. And that's, I think, part of the whole Bruce Wayne thing that you have to do. And again, I think Bale pulled it off pretty well. And the rest of the characters also perfect. Michael Caine as Alfred. This guy was great. He was a bit more human than some of the other characters because he did provide comic relief, some little chuckles every time, now and then, but he never was too careless. He was always serious and was trying to bring him back to reality, especially with Bruce Wayne, in fact, I would say Alfred is the one who's most trying to tell him to stop this. You have to stop it. It's hurting you. You can't go on with it. And that was kind of an interesting twist, because in the last few Batman movies, it always seemed like Alfred was trying to push him to keep doing it. So, again, differences in some movies is good, and this is proof. Another character I would say is very much on the same token is Gary Oldman as Jim Gordon. Gary Oldman, he's just a fantastic actor in itself, but he's very serious as the sergeant in this movie, but he also has a few little light chuckling moments. Like, there's a point where the Batmobile just drives past him and he's just shaking his head. He's like, wow, I gotta get me one of those. And every time I see that scene, it makes me chuckle. So, again, very good performance to Gary Oldman. I don't think I even need to go into Freeman or Neeson. They're always A-list actors that bring their all to the game. But the one I want to talk about is Katie Holmes. She was one of the more unpopular choices, since fans weren't really all that responsive to her. In fact, I think she even won a was nominated for a Razzie because of this, but I don't know, I never had any problems with her character. She kind of did this whole childhood friend, but never became the damsel in distress sort of character, and again, I had no problem with it. So yeah, I thought the casting in this film was phenomenal. I love the dark tone. I love the origin story. Are there any real issues with this movie? Well, they're really just nitpicks for me, but they do kind of add up. And these are the kind of things I'm sure you've heard as criticisms for this movie before. I'll save the obvious one for last. But first off, I would have liked to see the Scarecrow, played here by Cillian Murphy, a lot more, because I haven't read the Batman comics, but from what I hear, he's a very essential villain, and he really wreaks up havoc. But we only saw him in a couple of scenes, and he's kind of like a setback to the main villain that we're building up all this time in the League of Shadows, because he frequently mentions, like, my master is coming and he won't be pleased, because we're building up to something. I like that, but I don't know. Just my little gripe, I would have liked to have seen him more often. Another little thing was a few times the dialogue kind of confused me in this film, particularly towards the end when Ducard comes back, I don't think I'm spoiling that, and says to Bruce Wayne, you burned down my house and left me for dead. Consider us even. I'm thinking, wait, what are you talking about? He didn't leave you for dead. He saved your life. What? I don't know. Even people I show that movie to the first time are always like, no, he didn't leave you for dead, so we all agree on it. But, again, little nitpick. The one that everyone makes fun of, though, yeah, you guys knew this was coming, was Christian Bale's Batman voice. Okay, I'm just gonna say right here, right now, I never hated it, at least not as much as everyone else did, but I still must ask the question, why? Why does he sound like he's constantly having a lung cancer asthma attack? I mean, I guess you could argue that he's trying to hide his voice from the other characters, but he's talking that way to Ducard towards the end. Ducard knows he's Batman, so what's the point of talking differently? Why do you have to talk like... It's you know, everyone's made fun of it, so I just won't go into it all that much. Those are my nitpicks, and to call them nitpicks, I think, would be a little too harsh, because on a whole, Batman Begins is an engrossing and dark arc, sometimes tragic origin story. The characters are well placed out, the story is great, and the darkness finally gets Batman in the right way. I was so excited to see this movie coming out of it. I thought it was the best movie in a long time I had seen. This was 7 years ago, right after I got out of 7th grade in junior high, and I was really hyped to see more. And in a movie like this, that's always a great sign. I'm not going to give it 5 stars because I didn't like it as much as The Avengers or the first 2 Alien movies, but it's pretty darn close. So, 4.5 stars out of 5 for Batman Begins. You can find all my movie reviews on my YouTube channel. If you have a movie you'd like me to review, comment on this video or on my channel. Subscribe if you like, and until next time, peace.